Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Malifaux, Mollusk here, and I'm finally getting around to narrating this game. Oh my gosh, it's taken me a long time to get around to it, and I've got to find a faster way, a quicker way to do these things. And I'm toying with the idea that instead of narrating the whole battle report, maybe I could pick one or two key moments or plays or set pieces that would be interesting to capture. You've got these models combined together work like this. I'm still sort of chewing on the idea, so we're going to do this one, I think, more or less normally. But as it's been quite a while since I played this game, and I've probably forgotten a whole lot about it, it could be that we keep this one abbreviated as well. Which is a shame, because this was a really cracking game. I actually had so much fun playing this. It was a really good one, and I think showcases one of the most fundamental and coolest parts of Malifaux, which is that you don't need to kill shit to win. So without further ado, let's get into the terrain setup. I found these river pieces in a box and thought, oh, this is just too cool, I've got to use this. So I slapped these on the board. So a river basically is severe terrain. We've got some forests. We've got some impassable blocking building structures, concealing severe terrain pipe, probably another blocking impassable structure over here, and a central piece that is, I think, severe terrain throughout. Oh, no, maybe it's not. I think it's just blocking an impassable walls, but there's a cross section that's got an opening that we can move through. I can't remember if the interior was severe terrain. It didn't come up really. So the deployment is flank, which brings both crews quite close to each other quite quickly. And the strategy is stuff the ballots. We've got our ballot markers out across the midline, and then our deployment zone, which we can't interact with on the first turn, I don't believe. And then the schemes are Espionage, Information Overload, Ensnare, In Your Face, Hold at Their Forces. For my crew, I've just gone for my stock standard, cookie cutter, just keep playing this and learn how to use it. Returned crew, I forget who was the attacker and defender, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to say I think it was my opponent, and I think I asked him to deploy the group with his leader, his master in it. So he's deployed them over there, then I deployed all my stuff, and then he deployed these other guys. So what have we got? So for Tiri the Architect's crew, let's zoom in, let's have a look. Who have we got? I think that is Kett, the Iron Matron, Parson, Tiri the Architect. Parson has flush with cash, which means he can pay a soul stone to immediately make whatever I'm trying to do fail, any action I do fail, and if anybody dies around him, he will get a soul stone, which seems quite good. And I can see a sort of action denial tar pit thing with Tiri and Parson here, where one of her defensive triggers allows her to just completely end an I think it's end an activation. Let me double check. Yeah, if someone attacks her and they're within 3 inches of one of her technology markers and she gets her trigger, she can just end their activation, which super sucks. So then we have a Botanist, the First Light, and a proxying Hand of Janus. And out over here we've got Oro Boro. For the returned, we've got my Cavern Nephilim sitting in this forest. I'm getting to start them in severe terrain, which is great, or concealing terrain, whatever it is that forces them to get their little ambush thing for free. We have Athorak, Kastore Fervant with Inhuman Reflexes, Gwyll, Urn Bearer, and Marathine with Inhuman Reflexes. Now, I'm still just relearning this game. I haven't committed all the schemes and strategies and stuff to memory yet, and I'm just playing around how stuff works and what I can do. So going into this game, I just said to myself, right, whatever happens, I'm going to try to play more of a bubble. I'm going to try to play more of a move my crew as a goon squad and just move in together and smash a part of his crew. And then once we've done that, we'll have the numbers and kind of power advantage to then go off and do schemes and strategies. Very, very much a guild approach to the game, or how guild used to play in M3E anyway. Very much not a way to play Neverborn typically, unless you're something like Pandora. But yeah, so that's sort of my idea coming into this game, and with the deployment, what I'm planning to do is move my guys up around this side of this building, cutting myself off. Basically, this guy is a bit of a worry to me. I don't really know what they do, but I have glanced at this guy's card before and seen that he seems to be quite scary. So the idea is to move around with kind of like the body of my crew catching up with my Nephilim, and then sort of like utilizing the combat power of the Nephilim in conjunction with Kastore, because they tend to go off on their own and they tend to get killed, basically. But they're no slouches, and so having them with Kastore to sort of like tip the balance and really murderize a chunk of an opponent's crew before then like quickly moving on because they've got the speed seemed like something I wanted to try. So yeah, so moving up around the side of the building, hopefully it takes this guy a bit too long to reposition and we've mulched these guys by that point. Kastore's going to be getting into the action, stuff is going to be dying, so I'm going to be taking In Your Face. I'm aware that my crew is really vulnerable to In Your Face as well, so I'm expecting my opponent to take that. So we'll see if the kind of like the overbearing power of getting all these guys stuck in at once, killing everything, and then hopefully my Nephilim will survive due to that and be able to like run off into the backfield to score the other points or whatever they need to do to survive. I can't remember what it is. Yep, the second point is indeed scored by getting into the opponent's deployment zone. Then what else did I go for? I think I went for Espionage. Again, I figured like if we can smash this sort of like table half, then it should be easy for me to just drop a scheme marker on the middle line and have my Nephilim get into the deployment zone as well, because it's really close. So I was thinking that should be a fairly simple one to achieve. And then stuff the Ballots. Well, if I'm giving up this table half, then he's going to be... I mean, I'm not going to be denying my opponent scoring those, but maybe I can control these 3, these 4, and at least score all my points from it. That's the idea. That was the idea. So we go into turn 1. There is my hand. And I'm going to be trying to keep that 10 and 12 for turn 2. Not really trying to do much this turn other than position. And here's just some close-up pictures of our crews heading off into battle. Okay, so I do my normal setup where I get Athorak going first, putting down some covering obelisk markers, runestone markers, whatever they're called, to block line of sight on my crew that's very much out in the open as we head up this side of the building. And he's been pushing Kastore forwards with Faith in Flesh and shielding people and all that good stuff. Tiri's lot have been busy shielding themselves and dropping markers, and a Marathine has moved up to just stand in their face. And the idea here is I mean, I would love to tie up this model, but I can't. There's nothing that will keep him fighting Marathine. So the idea is just to get across this river and kill this model, I forget what it's called. We'll call it the giraffe. Because I feel like this is important. I feel like this is like a battery model that will do lots of things for my opponent's crew. And so Marathine is just going to go gunning for it. And I think it does lots of shielded for them, and I think it gives them lots of card draw, card manipulation. So important to get it off the board. And I don't really see that there's much he can do to stop me, other than this darn river is going to be slowing Marathine, which is a pain, because Marathine does not ignore the terrain. Looks like Parson's gone. I don't know if that's a focus or something. So, you know, they're just shuffling. The crew waddles up a bit further, and yeah, I need to sort out my activation order and what I'm trying to achieve with this sort of thing. So the whole point of doing this is to move Kastore up to be able to like alpha strike on turn 2 or even turn 1, right? And that's powerful, but not necessarily the thing to do every game, because that's a big commitment, right? Like, I'm sending my biggest, most powerful piece, my queen piece, into the full enemy crew. They haven't been softened up. He's sort of like the softener, and into certain crews that is not going to work. Into certain crews that can't deal with that or have mispositioned in such a way as to allow me to go in and, you know, cause devastation for little blowback, that's great. But like, the cost to me is that it leaves my sort of like 3 battery dudes. I mean, Gwyl's not really, I mean, only this one's really a battery, but yeah, you know what I mean. So my 3 supports get left well behind in the backfield. And so, I have to really consider, am I going to go for that, or am I going to prioritize their position, get them upfield to then maybe do this little movement tricky thing later, maybe in turn 2, if the lines haven't been drawn, if we haven't been engaged yet. Need to think about when to do the Alpha Strike. And in this case, I've made done the cardinal sin of moving Gwyll up to stand next to the Black Blood model, foreshadowing things to come. So the Hand of Janus has moved across the river and can draw line of sight to Kastore, because Kastore is so tall. And I don't know, maybe you can clip him through the gap, I don't know, but I think Kastore is actually taller than these walls, so no problem seeing Kastore. And unfortunately my ward stones do not block this. And you can see how nicely bunched up my dudes are. And I don't actually know if something else has moved the Hand of Janus. I don't know. I think if something could, it would have moved him, like, save his action economy crossing this river. In other news, we've got Oro Boro just pegging it all the way across the board to get to this marker, and one of my Cavern Nephilim is sort of going up into the backfield again. Like, I'm tired of sending these guys up and them getting killed in the first turn or like top of turn round 2. So I'm trying to really hang back, skirt the edges of where I think his threat might be, and yeah, keep them safe. So in any case, back to the cake. The Hand of Janus throws his spear, hits the red Joker for damage, and just explodes my crew. Oh my gosh, that was painful. So yeah, so we luckily most of the people hit can use soul stones, right? So I burn through a fair few soul stones. Kastore gets off pretty lightly. You know, I'm flipping quite good for my soul stones in the last few games. But poor Gwyll, like, because Athorak's taking damage, and yeah, he's soul stoning and reducing it for himself, but Gwyll is, you know, also taking the damage, also stoning, but then getting bled on by Athorak, and it's just bad. And my Urn Bearer is basically nearly dead. So yeah, oh my gosh, that was that was a good spear throw, or laser, or whatever the attack is. So emboldened by that, the Botanist walks into the river, maybe trying to suck up some nutrients, but pressing forward towards the centre. And a surprise as a wild Kastore comes charging in. So yeah, after taking all those blasts and having my crew mauled, I realise I am not going to be able to move up around this building. I'm not going to have the time to move up around this building before I just get murdered by the Explorer Guild's artillery. I wasn't expecting there to be much ranged in my opponent's crew, and yeah, now I realise I don't have the time to position the way I want to. So we're going to find out if Kastore can take down this kind of scary armoured up golem thing. I don't want to fight this thing because it's got lots of hit points and lots of armour, which is something the returned aren't really well equipped to deal with, other than like death by 1,000 cuts, bleeding, and lots of little attacks kind of things. But I'm curious to see how Kastore can handle this kind of thing by himself, and so he's going in. Yeah, so we charge, we hit severe on the charge attack, causing us to double blast off into the incautious Botanist. We managed to charge through the hand for a bit of damage on our way through, and our bonus action allows Marathine to charge through, doing some more damage, and I think we mutilate and slow the hand with our second attack. It was a lot of damage. And as I think I charged the Botanist with Marathine and thwacked her, I think the Botanist is on 1 or 2 health left, and the Hand of Janus is, I don't know, maybe half health. And yeah, things have kicked off. So Tiri and Parson move up to offer the hand some moral support. Just get close to this wall, put down their technology marker. I don't know if it's Kett that like pushed people. Maybe I can't remember. Somebody did something, like dropped a grenade which pushed people around. So it might have been Kett, and that might have like pushed Parson over here. I can't remember. Pushed the Matron and Kett. Basically, Matron and Kett have gone off to kind of contest this marker, and Tiri and Parson have gone off to bolster the centre. I've moved my other Nephilim up because I want to be in position to contest this sort of area next turn, and I think this is a mistake because I have once again put him up in a position where he can be attacked by the enemy and potentially one-rounded without being able to get the drop on. I'm not able to get the drop because I'm losing control of the engagement. Right, I'm putting him into position to be
engaged on by 2 enemy pieces, and this one is quite a bit more threatening than I thought it was. And indeed, this one's not just like a little minion, right? And with the start of turn 2 going to be very much focused on this sort of area, I'm not going to have the control that I want to be able to get the first strike or get the position I want to with this guy without making him vulnerable to these guys. So yeah, I think moving him up, advancing him like this was a mistake. Having him further back out of there, like, they don't really want to be dragging themselves all the way over here to get him. They don't really want to be dragging themselves all the way off over here to get him. They want to be sitting around this marker, so they're either going to sit on this marker and try to get their points, which gives me the space to go off and do other things. You know, just like imagine having this guy over here. Now, okay, they want to come off over here. Well, now they've got to deal with these guys and this guy, and they're not scoring the points. So that's breaking them off into a smaller, manageable pieces. If they don't, then I've got the option to come through over, come round through to really help out in the central area, or wait till they've activated and go in and just sort of like do stuff at the end of turn. So he really doesn't need to move up into this position. But actually, it seems that the matron hadn't even activated. It was the grenade thing that was moving them forwards. So yeah, she just happily comes in and swats them with her paddle, doing huge damage to my Cavern Nephilim and engaging them both. And it's just bad. And that is how things end up on the end of turn 1. Going into turn 2, there is my hand. I would have hoped for some more. And I think I actually stone for cards here, which is something I have not really been doing, but I feel this is a pretty important turn, and yeah, it did not pay off for me. Other than the fact I've now ditched all my low cards from my previous hand and the filtering from the Soulstone in this turn. I've got a decent few weak cards out of my deck. And yeah, the board is a bit more bare now, isn't it? What happened here? So thanks to my pass tokens, Kastore killed the hand of Janus. Must have been a pretty good hit. We charged through with Marathine to kill the Botanist. Kastore then charged the whatever that giraffe thing was called, and then used his final action to kidnap the giraffe thing over to this marker, which killed her in the process. And yeah, so I guess the hand of Janus was much more damaged the previous turn than I thought, because we must have killed him in a single action. So yeah, an absolutely massive points and activation swing for the return, top of turn 2. That was just incredible, and that felt really good. That felt really good. Kastore is an absolute monster. Rawr. So Tiri and Parson go, and they hop the wall using Tiri's teleportation field, or whatever that is, claiming the strategic central marker, and blasting my Urn Bearer to smithereens for fun as well. So they're now holed up in this house, surrounded by the bloodthirsty calls of the Nephilim. Over on this flank, my Cavern Nephilim uses the opportunity to heal up a bit, push himself out of combat. Yeah, just get around to this the marker. I don't know if he's interacted to put a vote in for Kastore there. I think that's what that is. In the meantime, Parson charges out of the house and wades into my support pieces. That looks like a red Joker onto Athorak, which means Athorak is bleeding onto Gwyll, and I'm just burning through my soul stones trying to keep him up. And yeah, Gwyll is sick of being splashed with black blood, so he's off. The idea here is to run him off into this unoccupied, barely occupied quadrant of the board. He's really hurt. I'm really low on soul stones. I might, in fact, have run out of soul stones. And so yeah, I just wanted to get him away from the action, contest these markers. Maybe I am worried about Oro Boro. Oro Boro can pretty easily kill Gwyll. Yeah, he's on that low health, but it's the best of a bad situation, right? Like I can't. I'm not going to. I feel like I'm not going to be able to kill his master or Parson if Gwyll sticks around. Maybe I could have killed Parson. Athorak did actually end up doing quite a lot of damage to him. But yeah, there's no way I'm getting him up and around this forest and into the mix here. So I feel like giving myself options out in this space, potentially deny whatever scheme markers or strategy voting Oro Boro is going to be doing, with the option to just freely be able to get scheme markers down for my scheme. Now that this part of the board is not looking good, and my master's kind of taken himself out of position into the back line. But yeah, so the idea is that Kastore will be able to score points over here, drop scheme marker, get the strategy marker, and Gwyll will be able to put one scheme marker down on the centre line at some point. Is about what I was thinking here. Yeah, it looks like Kett has gone and finished off my Cavern Nephilim and put a little votey vote on the strategy marker. And the other Cavern Nephilim is dancing around. I don't know if he's doing much damage to the Iron Matron, probably not. And yeah, the dance continues as she just keeps following him and beating on him, staying out of Black Blood range, which is really, really annoying. And the votes coming in thick and fast, but the race is even. And this is Athorak on fire. He can't heal because I think Tiri's hit him with the no healing trick, which is really, really annoying because his whole thing is to be a tar pit, as he can use soul stones. He regenerates. He's got hard to kill, right? So he should just, if you can't kill him in one turn or one activation, he should just be kind of like pipping, like going back and forth between his hard to kill threshold. But I can't do that, and Gwyll can't remove the condition from him, which is annoying. So yeah, so he's just forced to attack Parson, and it doesn't do too badly. Ancient Words actually hits real strong. Because I haven't mentioned it up to this point, but this game was sort of defined by how I almost never flipped a weak damage. I think I flipped weak damage like twice in this game. So I'm just hitting all moderates all the time with a few severes thrown in, and yeah, that is doing work on my opponent's health bars. So out on far field, Oro Boro has done some voting and is now moving up to. I think he's trying to get into my backfield to drop some scheme markers, but he's now also going to be a bit distracted by Gwyll, I suspect. And that is how we end turn 2. I scored In Your Face when Kastore killed the hand of Janus. Tiri's crew scores the strategies for Stuff the Ballots, and I think that's it. Going into turn 3, I seem to have forgotten to take a picture of my hand this turn. So, what happened? I can't remember who went first. It might have been me, and I think I just ran with my Nephilim, like pushed people away. Might have been like a move over, push the matron out of combat, and then just run and ambush to try it to safety. Basically, I need him to be alive and in my opponent's deployment zone at the end of the game to score a point. I feel my best bet is to, if I activate him, I get some health up. If I pull him out over here, then it's going to cause my opponent to have to send someone to deal with him, which means Kastore can eat them, and there's a chance he survives, right? Like that's his best chance of survival, my best chance of getting points. So in response, Tiri goes in on Athorak, and he can't heal, he's on fire, and she takes down Athorak, scoring In Your Face. So feeling a bit low on activations, Kastore manages to get across and just get into range of the Iron Matron. And so yeah, the idea is I'm just going to try to tie both of these guys up and stop them from getting to my Nephilim. And yep, so we charge Marathine in. Marathine can't stop Kett, but it's just, yeah, I'm just trying to put damage on. I'm just trying to kill people. I'm just trying to make it as difficult as possible for my opponent to get to my returns, my Cavern Nephilim, and try to salvage this flank. Basically, Kastore is the super solo. He is the whole team. And I think because my opponent cheats, I'm able to move, reposition, and get in to engage Kett and sort of try to block. Yeah, just additionally trying to block everything up over here. And then I think Marathine goes and like charges through, just doing some more damage. I'm aware that I think this is his scoring model for In Your Face. So the idea is, this is a bad situation for me, but I'm trying to forky him. Like I'm trying to be like, well, you need to score your point by running over here. You stop me from scoring my point by running over here. So I'm hoping he runs, to be honest. I'm hoping he just runs into this corner, which will then allow Kastore to chase and just like continue his murder spree and allow me into his backfield to score the points that I need to score. That's my hope. And there's another picture of that combat occurring from all kinds of angles, it seems. I guess it was pretty felt pretty important. Yeah, so Gwyll has gone and dropped a ski marker and focused up, I don't know. And Oro Boro has come over and claimed the ski marker. Gwyll doesn't have engagement range, it doesn't, so it's pretty hard to stop him from doing anything there. And I'm just like, I'm hoping Oro Boro as a totem doesn't feel he can take on a henchman, but he totally could just kill Gwyll in one activation, should he fancy it. The Iron Matron dodges, weaves through out of combat, manages to get to my Nephilim and red jokers him to death. So sad. But I think this was the correct play. Denies me points, and he's already ahead, so denying me points is or he will be ahead with his control of the strategy markers, and it sort of like denies my. I'm not able to develop my position off of like chasing him. So, yeah, I think this was the right move, and oh darn it! So that is how we end turn 3, and from that massive swing at the top of turn 2, the Nephilim are actually looking pretty out-positioned and thin on the ground. Yeah, Tiri's ability to deny healing, like to just not allow you to heal, was absolutely massive for taking down Athorak, and my poor positioning of Gwyll, and the fact that Gwyll just doesn't do a lot. Yeah, just like, so like, I guess Gwyll could have used his abilities to keep Athorak up, keep denying us, or like keep holding this area to give Kastore more time to come and help out. But yeah, that anti-heal was amazing. And yeah, instead of being able to just sit in the backfield scoring points with Kastore, like Kastore can't be the person doing that, I had to go and get involved and try to do a bit of a swapsies with the Cavern Nephilim, and it just didn't pan out. So going into turn 3, Kastore and Marathine finish off Kett and then charge all the way back over to the Iron Matron to give her a piece of their mind, and that they do. So wiped them off the board again. So more of Tiri's crew wiped off the board, back in the backfield, but it's too little too late, I feel. The Nomads have blocked me on this marker. They've got all these markers secured. They've got into my backfield. I have got a little sneaky scheme marker over here, ready to score my points, the final points for my espionage scheme. Managed to remove the marker they had placed for the same purposes at some point, probably with Marathine. But yeah, I just can't see how I'm going to have enough AP to catch up on points here. The returned have been outmaneuvered. So Parson gets over into my deployment zone, secures this marker. Tiri moves back into the centre just to try to hold things up, make sure I can't pull out any last-minute shenanigans, and I'll basically hold the centre line to enable her to drop a scheme marker there. Gwyll, he could have run across, or I don't know if he was engaged with Oro Boro, but the potential was to try to put get a scheme marker down in the enemy deployment zone, save Kastore and AP potentially. I don't know if I could have used. I think I was just out of range to use, or out of position to use his energy transfer, whatever have you. I don't think I had the card or a stone for the trigger. That's it. So I would have been top decking for the trigger to get a scheme marker down, which didn't seem worth his AP. So he's moved off around over here, drops another scheme marker just to create scheme markers on the center line that Oro Boro can't. The idea that Oro Boro can't remove all of them, and then I guess try to get over to a marker that Oro Boro can't contest to maybe put in some votes. I'm sort of floundering here. The idea is to put down enough scheme markers on the center line that I can score both points of espionage in one go. Don't realise at this point that I can't do that. I can only score 1 point for it in a given turn. So Oro Boro puts another vote in for Tiri and then heads off towards the backfield because he needs to get a scheme marker in his deployment zone. And Gwyll now doesn't have the AP to contest this in the time he has remaining. We move into turn 5, and there's not a lot of models left to do stuff with, and it's pretty clear that I've lost, but I want to see what I can, fight to the end, see what I can do. And so I think I get given the first activation. I probably go with Gwyll. I can't get to anywhere to score for the strategy. I've placed all the markers that I basically can do. Maybe I fire some pot shots at Oro Boro, I don't know. Parson probably sits here voting, putting another scheme marker down. And I don't know if I mentioned before, but they will have scored the first point of espionage previous turn. And now it's Oro Boro's job to get that last scheme marker into their deployment zone so they can to finish off the final point. So Oro Boro goes, he runs just into the corner, trying to tuck himself in, dropping a scheme marker. But it's a bit hard to get away from Kastore and Marathine. Looks like Kastore's voted for himself, dropped some scheme markers, moved over, and then teleported Marathine to himself. Marathine is then charged Oro Boro, and then activated to remove the scheme marker. And it doesn't look like Tiri has the AP to be able to get over and get a scheme marker in the deployment zone herself. So that is where we end things. The final scores. The return scored 1 point for Stuff the Ballots, 1 point for Espionage, because you can't score more than 2 points in the same turn for this for a scheme. I think I'd set it up so that I had 2 markers in their deployment zone, 2 markers on the centre line, and 1 in the backfield. And I was gonna pick up one centre line, 1 backfield, 1 for 1 point, and then the other 3 for the final point. But can't do that. So yeah, so I only scored 1 point, sadly, and 1 point for In Your Face. Whilst Tiri's crew scored 3 points, 4 points, 3 points for Stuff the Ballots, 1 point for Espionage, denied at the last second by good old Marathine, and 1 point for In Your Face, making this game 6-3 to Tiri and her Architectural Nomads. Really great game. I had so much fun playing this. Like, Kastore is so much fun to play. Like, honest to God, beast mode. He killed literally everything. Apart from he and Marathine killed literally everything and scored all the points, basically. So I'm getting my money's worth out of him, but not the rest of my crew. And that is now something to think about a bit. As my opponent observed, I played too much for kills this game, and you just can't do that in Malifaux, which makes it so fun. I really like that aspect of the game, and I just can't afford to give up the amount of table space that I did in this game. Like my idea of like sort of like the death ball, just gave up too much table space, where he was able to just like unopposed do whatever he wanted in with Oro, just with his single little totem Oro Boro in this bottom corner. I just got pulled. I wasn't able to do the death ball as I'd intended, largely because of this building having a central area where it's just difficult to fit lots of models, difficult to like draw easy line of sight. Like I guess you can think of it like if you've got an obscured center, then you don't want a death ball because it forces you to split up. You can't bring that power to bear without opening up just too much of the rest of the map for free to the enemy. Whereas maybe with like an open center, you've got more of that. Maybe that gives you, that plays into that sort of like playstyle better. And when you've got Killy Master against a less or not really kill dedicated Master, I guess that generally puts you in the driving seat of like you can like take ground and crash your team into theirs and win unless they sort of outmaneuver you. But his crew was pretty nasty actually. Like, it had a lot of combat potential. Like he's got multi-damage threat with his master also being able to do damage and make that damage stick, and her trigger, her artifact markers, whatever they are, to just end your activation makes her super unappealing to go after. So really, this building sort of played to my hand a little bit in the way that it works out, in that, you know, if he'd been able to concentrate that power on Kastore or on my crew a bit better, then, you know, I'd been in real trouble trying to take him head on. It was really only that Kastore was able to like take out chunks of his army in sort of isolated fights that meant I was able to come out on top in combat. So yeah, so ultimately I'm getting experience with Kastore. I'm learning that he has a pretty high limit on what he can achieve. Like, he can move around fast, he can kill stuff. There's not much I'm afraid of at this point in terms of like one-on-one. He's probably a match for almost anything in this game, but I just can't adopt a kill first, scheme later approach. Like, I've got to play for the strategy, as in like all the past couple of games I've played, I've sort of ignored the strategy, felt like I'll get to it at some point and just score basically no points from it. So I have to deploy and I have to position first turn in a way that's dictated by the strategy. And it sort of comes a bit into crew composition. So I love my Cavern Nephilim. They are really, really good models. They can flank and they can fight, but they have to be protected. and I have to get them a favourable engagement. I can't have them like held outside of 1 inch by high melee reach models. I can't have them like one-turned. So I think I've got to play them more conservative in the first turn definitely, and maybe even in the second turn. And really, they do have to go on a separate flank to try to draw the enemy crew apart, which then sort of leaves my crew's core, which is like I've got 3 pretty expensive support pieces, and they just don't do enough. The Urn Bearer needs to be getting use out of her lure. Like she can't just be a push Kastore a few inches in the first turn and then get killed sort of thing. I've got to be using her lure to pull pieces that are getting left behind in my backfield up, or ideally, how I used to play with my lure crews, like pulling enemy pieces into my traps, into my threat ranges, and building up that shielding to then like get that clutch, empty the urn on Kastore once he's committed into combat. So I do think she's got to stay. Athorak is like stapled to my crew. Like he's more stapled to my crew than Kastore is. Like I love that model. He is so useful. So he's got to stay, which leaves Gwyll. And Gwyll is such a good model for Kastore. Like he is so hard to leave him behind. He does everything, but he's the weak link. Like it's just sort of like thing. Imagine if I'd had Doppelganger, that extra sort of scheme running potential, or that extra combat potential. So yeah, lots of things to think about. And all that's left to say here is what a cracking game, and many thanks to my opponent for giving it to me. So until the next one, take care.